with Jeff Bridges, Charles Grodin, and introducing Jessica Lange as the beauty who charmed the beast. And starring the eighth wonder of the world, King Kong.
King Kong, 1976 style, was directed by John Gillerman. It was produced by Dino De Laurentiis. It starred Jeff Bridges and the debuting Jessica Lange. And this was the first remake of the legendary King Kong from 1933. But before I dive into my thoughts, I'm so glad to have this guy finally on the channel, Epictastic Joshua. Josh, take it away.
Hello Ryan, it's good to be on your channel for the first time. You and I collaborated on something. And if you guys are new to Ryan Cam's channel, my name is Joshua Drake. I am the creator of Epictastic Joshua. I do the same stuff as Ryan does, like movie reviews, but I also work in TV reviews, live commentaries, top 10 lists, rankings, all that such. So if you guys are new to the channel, all my social media links are over on my About channel, and they will probably be in the description of this video. This is my part of the collaboration review for King Kong 1976. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and talk about it, and we're going to talk about my thoughts on this. So this is directed by, of course, John Gillerman. This is written by Lorenzo Zampo Jr. and based on the classic story of the same name. This stars Charles Grodin, Jessica Lange, and Jeff Bridges, and is also produced by Dino De Laurentiis. This was the fifth entry released in the King Kong franchise, and this was the first of two remakes. One I really love, which is the Peter Jackson one, but I'm not here to talk about that one. This is an interesting one for me to talk about because when I grew up watching this, and the 2005 one, this was the one that I liked, but I wasn't sure I loved. And the more that time has gone on, and when I decided to rewatch it just to prepare for this review with Ryan Cam, I reviewed this back on my channel about 6 years ago in 2017. But I thought the movie was okay. So watching the movie again now, I was hoping that to see how my feelings would be. My feelings unfortunately still are the same. This is a movie, while I do not hate in the King Kong series, this is also a movie I don't love here. This is a movie that it has some good things to enjoy about it, but there's also a lot of things in this movie I really don't particularly enjoy. And one of the things I will give credit to is, I will say, the effects by Rick Baker, the costume, the makeup, and all of that, that is actually really competently handled and is really well done. I will have to say that is a good job on the part of Rick Baker. It looks good. Kong, the suit, it looks good for a time, and it doesn't match the effects work in the 33 film or the 2005 version, but I do think it's pretty much enough there that does it exactly what it's out to do in terms of the makeup. So the mechanical effects and makeup by Carlo Rabati and Rick Baker, when you do get the King Kong action and such, is there. You get the entertaining factor that you come for, especially the climatic ending with Kong dying. I definitely can give credit to that in terms of what you are gonna get. The way the movie is shot is also very good. I think the movie is very shot, and it's very well shot by Richard H. Klein. Is very well done. It's a $24 million budget, so it looks good. I also don't mind John Barry's score. The score for John is actually pretty good. I definitely do think that it is well handled. And I will also say some of the performances in this movie are good. Now, I like the change that they make to have the World Trade Center be the infamous set piece that Kong dies. I will say that Jeff Bridges as Jack Prescott, Charles Grodin, and John Randolph and Renee Auberjonois, and all the rest of the cast, for the most part, they do a pretty good job in terms of what they could play with. And I don't mind Rick Baker and Peter Cullen as King Kong. Unfortunately, the biggest issue for me is that compared to some of the other Kong movies, when you compare it to the 33 film, you compare it to the 2005 film, or even King Kong versus Godzilla or Godzilla versus Kong, it's not really that strong. And unfortunately, that's the biggest example of this is because I don't get that much time to like the characters as much as I should. The acting is good all the way around. I just feel like the way they handled it in terms of casting isn't the best. I felt like there's a lot more they could have done in terms of what you could play with here, and it doesn't really go forth in terms of what you could do. So I will say, for the most part, that definitely does feel like it's out the well handled. I will also say the script in this movie is kind of lackluster. While I appreciate you doing things a little differently, but it takes a long ass time for the movie to get going. And people have this problem with the 2005 movie, but I forgive it in that film because while that movie was more longer than this, I got to care about the characters more, I got to care about the story, and I got to become invested in terms of what everything you could do. And so for that, I definitely give a lot of credit in terms of what they could play with there. I think there are some moments where some data effects that does not hold up very well. I also think the pacing in this movie is not the strongest. And going back to the cast, everyone else did good, but I feel like the one casting choice in here that was kind of just there is unfortunately Jessica Lange, which this was her first movie. I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt because this was her first film, and I do feel like she should get some credibility, and she does do fine for what she's given. She's not horrible with her, but you could tell that this was not the best start for her, and you definitely can feel that in terms of some moments of her performance. But I will say, this did help launch her career, and she's gone on to win a lot of great things here. Also, compared to the original film and some of the other films, I don't get as much attachment to King Kong as I would like to have, unfortunately. So that is another one of the biggest issues I do have in terms of the Kong as a character overall. At the end of the day, this is a version of the Kong story that, while I respect Dino De Laurentiis and the filmmakers and what they were going for, and I get elements out of it that I can enjoy, this is just not my preferred version of Kong. I prefer the 2005 film significantly more. I prefer the 1933 film more. There's aspects in here I can watch. Don't get me wrong. It is a movie I will watch every once in a while as background noise, but trying to watch the whole movie is not really all that strong. So unfortunately, on my rating system, I'm gonna have to give this movie a middle badly. This movie, I'm very in the middle with it, because for anything I like, there's things in this movie that is frustrating me. And I initially liked this when I first saw it. I thought it was good-ish, but time has not been kind to me, especially when I reviewed this movie, and I find more frustrations in this movie the more I watch it. Well, that's gonna do it for my part of the Kong 76 review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. To those of you who actually like this movie, more power to you. I will not take that away from you. Thank you, Ryan, for letting me be on your channel. I will sure to have you be on my channel for something at some points. And also, you guys be sure to check him out. All my social media links in the description box down below. I'll see you guys in more videos. Stay epitastic, join the epitasticness, acknowledge me, and you guys, as always, keep it cool.
Josh's channel is going to be linked in the description. Go give him a subscribe there. I'm so glad that I finally got him on this channel. But for King Kong 1976, This was an uphill battle from the very beginning because, as I have said on multiple occasions in many different places and shows, King Kong 1933 is probably the greatest monster movie of all time. From a VFX standpoint, from a story standpoint, no matter how you slice it, the movie is just almost perfect at this point. So a remake was automatically just like ice skating uphill. But I think generally this was this was pretty good. It's nowhere near as good as 33, but honestly, like, what else really is? I feel like the biggest thing that this movie has going for it in the positive side of things is that they went in a different direction, but more on that in just a minute. Depending upon who you ask, this movie had a couple of different origin stories. One side of things saw Dino De Laurentiis approaching RKO Radio Pictures asking for the rights to remake King Kong, and the rights were up for sale. And De Laurentiis purchased them because he saw that his daughter had a King Kong 33 poster in her room. However, there is another account that said that Michael Eisner, yes, the Michael Eisner that you're thinking of, who was working at ABC at the time, approached RKO and then ended up getting Louis Semple Jr. to write up a screenplay for the movie. Really, it's a bit of a mess to see how this movie ended up coming to fruition, but to make a long story short, there was a bit of an arms race to see who would get the first King Kong remake on the screen up in theaters, well, first. What is generally agreed upon, though, is that in May of 75, De Laurentiis paid RKO about $200,000 for the rights to the film, and it was made in about several weeks and was scheduled for a Christmas 1976 release. Right from the jump, this movie was aiming to be different. Louis Semple Jr., who would end up writing this movie, called the King Kong 33 version a simple backlot picture. Yeah, that's kind of wrong, but it's okay to be wrong sometimes. But Semple Jr. took note of a couple of things. Number one, the rise in sophistication of tastes of moviegoers and the 1970s energy crisis, and he blended it all into his King Kong remake to basically give the movie a more realistic tone. Gone were the days of like King Kong being a god to the natives of these islands. It was basically this oil company trying to find more oil because oil was in pretty much a scarcity in this era, and then they happened to stumble upon a gigantic ape, pretty much. Not to mention that this oil corporation has no interest in making movies like in the first one. They're just here to make money. So very realistic right there. Even down to the two main characters, the main leads of Jeff Bridges and Jessica Lange. Jeff Bridges is a doctor from Princeton who stows away on the ship. I don't know how this corporation let that slide, but let's just roll with it. And they end up finding Jessica Lange's character in a lifeboat, seemingly as a result of a shipwreck of some kind. But like I said, the biggest thing going for this movie is that they decided to go in a different tone, a different route, call it whatever you want. I appreciated that they didn't try and do a shot-for-shot remake kind of deal, which is what Peter Jackson would sort of kind of end up doing, but more on that in a couple of weeks. But I appreciated that they went differently. You know, we're watching this for the first time. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Kong Skull Island. I wouldn't be surprised if Jordan Vogt Roberts took some notes from this one when he was making Kong Skull Island, but it could be anything. Jeff Bridges and Jessica Lange were predictably very good in their respective roles. The movie looks really, really good. It looks like it was shot on location. The effects were done by Rick Baker, and the King Kong that he built looks awesome. Like, I think this would be the last time we would see a practical Kong in any form, because considering what we're getting with Godzilla X Kong, we're never getting a practical King Kong again. So this automatically gets a 2 thumbs up for me. I feel like because the 33 Kong is so good, this one just automatically gets buried in obscurity. But I don't think it's entirely fair. It is not as good as the 33 version. However, the 76 version more than has its fair share of merit. So much so, I'm going to give it a great rating. There is actually a lot of good stuff here. Again, you can never live up to the standard of the 33 version. You can only go different. And I am glad that they went in a different direction. But what did you all think of King Kong 76? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to read what you have to say. Thank you to Epictastic Joshua for joining me on this review. I hope to have him back very soon. But stay tuned for Wednesday, where we will see the return of Godzilla in the first remake from Toho of the Godzilla series. It is either the return of Godzilla or Godzilla 1984, depending on who you ask. We will be kicking off the Heisei Godzilla era this week, so stay tuned for that.